the story behind you being listed as a legend in WWE 2K23?
I had to classify me as a legend because I wasn't on the active roster.
How do you feel about John Cena's retirement this week?
It's cool. I was kind of talking to him a little bit about it. John is an interesting guy. Very smart, very educated. Just because he's retiring in the ring doesn't mean he's done being John Cena.
What is one thing about you, not the wrestler, just the human being, that you are most proud of right now?
Yeah, they're the hard-hitting questions.
Welcome to Real Appreciation. I'm one half of your host, David Clair-Bennett.
And I'm Elizabeth Darnell.
And today's guest is a former NXT Tag Team Champion. He's the co-founder of the Flatbacks Wrestling School alongside Shawn Spears. He is what many would call, gorgeous. So please, without further ado, welcome to the show, Mr. Prince Pretty himself, the one, the only, Tyler Breeze. What's up, Tyler?
What a great intro, man.
I appreciate it, man.
Take that everywhere with me. That's good.
Well, I want to go ahead and start off by taking us back to how you spent your years playing a character defined by extreme vanity, basically. Psychologically speaking, did playing a character like Prince Pretty make you hypercritical of your real appearance, or did leaning into that persona actually help you relax?
I think it actually helped me to relax. So I kind of found that, a lot of people, when I was trying to figure out who I was and trying to figure out, characters and stuff like that, a lot of people said, if you lean into yourself and kind of, just blow it up a little bit, then it makes it a little easier. So I tried that and I couldn't really figure it out. So what I ended up finding out, the easier one for me was almost like a yin and yang type of thing, where everything that I can't do or don't do in my everyday life, I can do as this character. And it made it way easier for me. So it was, super easy to click and everything else. So, I grew up in Canada. I live in, a hoodie and sweatpants. And, all of a sudden I'm a male model who has to make sure that he's wearing designer clothes all the time and everything else. So it was kind of a good balance, where, as soon as I was done work, I was right back to being this, you know what I mean? So it wasn't, I never really kind of let it, I guess, skew my vision of, which one am I? Am I Matt? Am I Tyler? Like, I kind of had them separate, which also, helps in a lot of different ways with social media and stuff like that too, where you can say whatever you want about Breeze. But, if you're talking about Matt, I got feelings too, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's good to keep them separate as different entities. So,
well, that makes a lot of sense. And a lot of us have seen you outside of just NXT and SmackDown through Xavier Woods UpUpDownDown channel over the years and through WWE 2K and stuff like that. And you have a whole new broad, wide range of audience basically coming into you. So talk to us about how far your history with Xavier goes. I'm talking all the way back to the Hollywood Express days.
Sure. So, you've done your research. I like it. So I can't remember when Woods signed on to FCW, which was before NXT. But I got there in 2010. And when I got there, obviously I'm in a new country. I'm in, all these new places, and I don't really know a lot of people. At the time, I knew one person who I was living with, was Jinder Mahal. And aside from him, I didn't really know anybody yet. So, once I kind of got in the groove of training and everything else, we went to our first show. And they booked me in a triple threat with Seth Rollins and Xavier Woods. And so he was kind of the first one I knew had done anything. Like, he was a name type of guy, because he was in TNA, obviously. So, I just went, let's find out what TNA was like. Because I've never been anywhere close to, these levels. So I just kind of had a normal conversation with him about, what was TNA like and this and that. And then we wrestled that night, obviously. And, we just ended up having a lot in common. So, the next day we're both at training, and you just kind of talk a little more and a little more and a little more. And, you slowly find out that you have similar interests and everything else. And it just kind of turned into, becoming one of my best friends. And, all of a sudden you're living together, and, everything's just kind of on a parallel path, I guess, because we're all trying to get to the same spot. So, it definitely helps having somebody, obviously, that you have great chemistry with, but who, kind of transcends the wrestling part and just becomes a really, really good friend, to help you make sense of all this stuff. So, yeah, I would say probably 2010 is when it started, up until now, obviously.
What was the original idea behind the Tyler Breeze character?
The very, very, very first original idea was, well, so before that, I was wrestling as a guy named Mike Dalton in FCW, and Mike Dalton, basically, to sum it up, sucked, was not good. It was just kind of a, no name, no face, good guy who nobody really cared about. There was nothing to latch on to. There was, I could do some wrestling stuff and, throw some drop kicks and whatever, but nobody cared about him. So it kind of came time to come up with something that can be marketable, or, companies are going to stop investing in you. So I had to start kind of thinking. And because I had focused so much on the wrestling aspect of things, I just wanted to be a good wrestler who had good wrestling matches and everything else. And I tried it and it didn't work. It wasn't working for me. So I went, you know what? Let's go the complete opposite. Let's go, almost like these people that I see coming in for tryouts at the time who were either coming in from, modeling or acting or, anything other than wrestling. There was a lot of, at the time, there was a lot of people coming in who had no clue about wrestling. And Norman Smiley was one of the trainers. He still is. And I would help him. And we just kind of, teach them the basics so you can see if, someone has potential to be signed and if they're athletic and if they can roll and if they can do certain things. And you end up hearing a lot of funny stuff because these people, of no fault of their own, they just don't know anything about wrestling. So, they're saying these funny things like they're calling, Monday Night Raw or Friday Night SmackDown. They're, talking about Thursday Night Smashdown and all this other stuff. And I'm going, oh man, this is kind of good. Like this is a character. This is someone could do that. And I always kind of resonated with the Zoolander-esque, kind of comedy, where, there's always kind of that borderline, not the brightest, but funny character in all these movies and shows. And I always resonated with that. So to go the complete opposite from, focusing on wrestling, I just went, I'm going full Zoolander here. And I'm just going to, be from some other avenue of life and say, I can do wrestling. Wrestling's easy. I can do this. And come in and do as little wrestling as possible, with just as much of the character as I saw from, Zoolander and from these people coming to try out. And I tried it once and everybody laughed and I went, okay, well, that could be something. And then I did it again and, people thought it was funny and it slowly kind of morphed into what it ended up becoming. But initially, yeah, it was full Zoolander. It was, even less wrestling than I ended up doing at the beginning. And full Zoolander, full lean into, the look, the voice, everything. Very, very different. But, that's kind of what made it take off, I guess, is because it was so different from what I was previously doing.
When you look back at the version of yourself that was just starting in FCW or NXT, what is one mental skill and or perspective that you have now that the old you would have desperately needed at that time?
I think it's just being more open, like open to everything. Where, when you're, I was a young kid who wanted to get into wrestling. So everything in my life kind of went towards wrestling. I was going to go to wrestling school and then I was going to be a wrestler working on wrestling shows. Everything was just wrestling, wrestling, wrestling. Well, it takes a while to kind of mature and figure out that, yes, it's wrestling. Yes, it's pro wrestling, but there's a lot more to it than just, hopping in the ring and doing wrestling moves and calling yourself a wrestler. There's, you need the marketability aspect. You need to invest in yourself as a character and your promo skills and your wrestling skills and everything else. It all kind of needs to come together to create something that people will pay money to see. Because we're asking a lot of people to spend their hard-earned money and their time to come out and watch a show and sit there and be entertained. So you have to do your part. And I think I just wasn't seeing the whole picture. I was just kind of, this is it, I think. And, if I was more open to the people who were saying, you got to think bigger than this, think bigger picture. Don't just, you're getting so caught up in just because you know how to wrestle doesn't mean you have to. And I went, what does that even mean? I don't understand it. I don't understand it. I don't understand it. Until it all finally started to click. And that's just, trusting, I guess, the opinions of other people who've done there before, or who've been where you want to be before, and just being open to actually being, coached in the right direction, as opposed to kind of, not thinking that you have it all down, but just, I guess being less receptive to it.
What's the story behind you being listed as a legend in WWE 2K23?
So that one's, I'm going to say not as interesting as you would imagine. So when they, basically what had happened was WWE released me in 2021, and then immediately hired me back to do other stuff, because I had kind of a lot of irons in the fire and I had a lot of other things that I was a part of. So they hired me back, and I guess to get me in the video game, they had to classify me as a legend because I wasn't on the active roster. So I either, I think to be playable, they had to put me as in a legends category, which was kind of funny because, a lot of people, there was like an uproar for a second of like, what? Like, we're calling Tyler Breeze a legend? Like, what? You can't put him next to like Hulk Hogan and Andre and all these guys. I was like, calm down. It's not like I'm not in the Hall of Fame here. Like, we're just classifying it as that. But yeah, a lot of people kind of misconstrued it as like, I was on a Legends deal and I was on this and that, and I was not. It's just strictly a video game thing that listed me as a legend in the game so that you could still play as me and I was still featured in it.
Speaking of the 2K games, we saw recently a little tease from Xavier Woods. I'm not sure if you can say anything at all, and I get it, but how exciting is WWE 2K26 looking right now?
It's good. So we didn't play it or anything. We didn't get eyes on it. Couple conversations about it, and we were kind of just, doing our usual thing. But just like every year that they've done it, they've done a great job, and they're going to put out another very solid game that I think everybody's going to be very excited for. Obviously myself and Woods being a part of the My GM stuff is very cool and sometimes mind blowing because, again, me and Woods live together and we just played it for fun and everything else. And now it's been brought back as a mode and, people seem to like it. They're putting it in game after game after game. So, yeah, I'm excited for it. I think people are excited for it. A lot of people like yourself were, hey, what were you guys doing? What are the new features? What are this? What are that? And I'm like, just hold on, because in theory, we don't even know them yet. There will come a time when we usually get to play and kind of see it before everybody else, but that time has not come yet.
Let's talk about the school that you created. I believe it was back in 2019, Flatbacks with Shawn Spears. Talk to me about how that came together.
It was actually, I want to say Spears had either just left or he had left like maybe a year-ish, somewhere about that. He had left WWE and he had joined AEW. And or he was on his way to AEW, somewhere in there. And he was doing some indie stuff and he was doing a seminar. And he just, at the time, I believe if it was 2019, I was still in WWE, so I was still doing NXT. But it was just, not saying trying to like, rediscover your, passion for stuff, but, every now and then you need a little refresher. And so he was doing a seminar and he just went, hey, do you want to come and like hang out? And I said, yeah, might as well. So we went and, he taught the seminar and I was there with him. And afterwards, I just remember like, there's a lot of people who we could help. And he was like, you think? And I said, yeah, man. I said, you saw a seminar. Like a lot of the stuff that we know, like nobody's even told these guys. Like they don't even know it exists. So how can they, try to get to the next level if nobody's telling them these key things, that we could be telling them. And so I said, instead of doing a seminar, like, why don't we open a school? And he goes, he's like, you think we could? And I said, honestly, I've always wanted to. It's just a matter of like, I'm on the road, so I can't run it myself and I don't trust anybody enough to, run it with my name on it. So I said, between the two of us, I bet we could make this work. And he went, okay, well, like, think about it for, what kind of an idea you would want, and then we'll go from there. And so kind of piece together, like, what we would teach and how the schedule would be and, what we would do for courses and stuff like that. And I said, try to find us a building and see what's out there. And I think he went and looked at one, and it was kind of like an office building, and they didn't want a wrestling school there. And then the other building ended up being, really good. And the guy went, look, man, I'm not trying to like hardball you or anything here, but like these are gone. Like they're, I have another person coming to look, and if you don't take it, they're probably going to take it. And so I just went, you know what, let's do it. Like, why not? We've looked, this is the only place that we could get. It's perfect. And it ended up being, where we're at now. And so we signed on, and I think from start to finish, like from that seminar till we started was maybe a month. Like it happened very quickly. Like it was just kind of like, we can do this, we can do it. Yep. If you're, I'm on NXT, so Tuesday I'm on the TV, and then Wednesday you're at TV. So between that, I can cover, you can cover, and everything else. So we're good. Let's get this thing up and running. And so we announced it, and then immediately got students, and it just kind of started rolling from there. And to make it work, which this was the key thing, I always knew, maybe when I was done wrestling or something like that, I could run it myself. But having somebody who has a like mind as you, is really tough because there's a lot of people who are very good wrestlers out there or very good coaches, but everybody has a different opinion on certain things. So having somebody who, we have it all the time where we're literally like mid-sentence or we see something and we both go, wait, never mind, you go, like we both got it. It's the exact same thing. And to do that, to find that is very, very difficult. So, we found it, we tried it, it's working. And yeah, we both love coaching. Obviously Spears is at NXT coaching, and then we both coach at Flatbacks. So the coaching aspect is really, really fun, and I've always kind of taken to that. And obviously the school works pretty well.
Looking back at your hardest year in WWE, when you were frustrated or not being used, what is one specific struggle from that time that you actually are grateful for now because it forced you to grow?
Oof. Yeah, that's a tough one. Because there is like, it kind of turns into a blur, I guess, when you're traveling the world and you're home for a day and a half, a week, and a lot of things can happen. So like when was it? I say 2018, 2019. I was married. So I was on the road, and I was on the road a lot, never home. Things just started to kind of fall apart, and I was going through divorce. And just like trying to maintain the road schedule and fly out and keep your life together and go through a divorce and everything else, it's like it's tough, man. It's tough trying to keep all those things aligned. So, I don't know. I don't know if realistically, I don't know if I would change any of it. It kind of led to where we're at now. So it's just like it kind of comes down to life experience, I guess. Like it's one of those things that you can't teach. You can explain it to somebody who's, 18, 19, 20, but until they get to be a certain age or until they go through some stuff, they're not really gonna, you know, understand, I guess, you know what I mean? And there's still, obviously way more that I have to learn as I get older, but I don't know, just going through everything, really kind of matures you to be patient and, figure out, I guess, a lot of things, or just wait and see if things figure themselves out on a lot of things. Where, if a lot of people are kind of, they like being in control, or they, they're impatient and they just want all the stuff to happen now. Yeah, you just kind of have to learn patience, and it took me a long time to figure it out on that front.
But something I'm still hot about is the fashion files going away. So why did that come to such an abrupt end?
I will stand on this hill forever. I think it was by accident. So, because we did that obviously for like 8 months, and it wasn't really like declining. Like everybody was still into it and everything was going well. But I think what happened was there was a pay-per-view coming up, and I can't remember which one it was, but there was a pay-per-view coming up, and they do the meeting and they go through the, what SmackDown's going to be that night, and everything was kind of heading towards the pay-per-view. So they looked, and at that time, like Vince, he just kind of left Fashion Files alone. Like he would go through the script or whatever and go, Fashion Files, yeah, don't even tell me about it because like I don't understand it, and just do it, whatever. And so I think they were going through it like normal, and they went, okay, and Fashion Files, and Vince went, why are we doing Fashion Files? Like they're not on the pay-per-view. And I think when he said that, everybody in the room freaked out and just went like, never do a Fashion Files again. Like he hates them. But all he meant was like, don't do it this week because they're not on the pay-per-view. So like we don't have enough time to add them in to lead to nothing on the pay-per-view. Like we can use that for something else. And ever since that happened, like then it was all of a sudden like, oh, we're not on the next week. And then we're like just kind of on YouTube. And then it's like, we're on WWE Digital, but like it's never on SmackDown again. And it just slowly like down, 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 down. And to the best of my knowledge, from what I asked around and everything else, I think it was just a mistake. I think it was a mistake that happened to get canceled.
Well, how much of it was actually scripted? Because it seemed pretty unrestricted and very Naked Gun-esque.
It was. Well, and especially too, if you've ever, talked to Dango or been around Dango, that's just how he is. That's how he is in terms of a lot of things. So, we had the general idea, and there was a lot of like really good jokes written in. The writers had a blast with it because, like I said, Vince just left it alone, where he didn't really leave anything alone. He was very hands-on with it. So they were having a blast where they'd go like, and Fashion Files, do you want to know anything about it? And he would go, nope. And they go, oh my God, like we just get to be over here, like writing whatever we want. And so they had a lot of fun with it, just kind of writing it and making it entertaining and stuff that wasn't so much wrestling. And we would usually go over it once and I would just go, all right, like this is the main idea. This is where we need to get to. And then Dango will kind of say random stuff that is hilarious. And as long as I bounce us back to where we need to go, we'll make it and we'll go to the end. So, we would usually run through one time, we'd cut, everybody would start laughing, and then we would go like, do we change anything? Like maybe this is funnier, maybe this is funnier. And usually like within one or two times we were good. Because especially with comedy stuff, like you just if it's good, you have to let it be good. And a lot of the times if we cut and everybody started laughing, we went, we're good. Like if you guys like it, they're gonna like it. And we just did that over and over. So Dango was, he's comedy gold that you can't write for. Like you can give a general idea, but he's going to spout off something that you go, how did you think of that? Or what do you like? Where did that come from? He's going to go, I don't know. And you just go, okay. So, it ended up working. It ended up coming together. But yeah, they would write an episode and they would have the general gist of it. But I would say probably 60% maybe would actually end up happening, and the rest would just kind of like fly off the handle wherever it went.
You've achieved a lot in the ring, but what is one thing about you, not the wrestler, just the human being, that you are most proud of right now?
Getting into the hard-hitting questions. What am I proud of about myself? You know what? I would probably say, and this was always kind of my goal in terms of like wrestling and locker room stuff too. Like I never really had, in terms of, I guess, gauging success or, anything else, I never really gauged it on like titles or, wins or like any of that stuff. I always really liked it if somebody looked at the card for that night and they saw they were wrestling me and they knew it was going to be fun and easy and it was going to be safe and, it was just easy. I always took pride in that where, you never want to look at the card and go, oh God, this is going to be horrible. Or like, I got to work this guy. He's going to, be a pain in the butt. But anytime that someone would look at it and go, oh, great, this is awesome. And then you go, yeah, let's, sort it out, whatever. And it was just super easy. And, to this day, there's really not a lot of people that I can think of that I ever had a problem with, or that we didn't get along, or if you ask them, like, oh, what is your relationship with Breeze like, or what do you think of him? There's not a lot of people who would have bad stuff to say, I don't think. And, I take a lot of pride in that because, especially in a competitive business where you can really, I guess focus more on, money and success and everything than friends. And, I would like to say I have a lot of friends in a business where it's tough to have a lot of friends. So, I'm personally proud of that where, I like the impact I've had on the relationships with, the good people that I've worked with.
Personally, we both want to say from the bottom of our hearts, we're very proud of you, the human being, as well.
Yes.
Thanks. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Do you think we'll ever see you back full time in WWE?
I'm not sure. I mean, that's, obviously not my call. If there was ever a spot or an idea where they said, hey man, are you interested in this? Yeah, I don't see why not. It's not one of those things where, I'm still active. I'm still wrestling around. I'm still doing all sorts of stuff. So, it's very, very possible. It's just a matter of it's up to them if they want it to happen.
Well, we saw you back in September at NXT. Maybe we'll see you again in 2026.
That's right. That's exactly right.
How do you feel about John Cena's retirement this week?
It's cool. I was kind of talking to him a little bit about it, and obviously just getting his take on everything and just, asking him if he was ready for it and, if it's sunk in yet and everything else. And, I think for me in particular, because like I grew up watching him, I in my teens, I was watching his rise and everything else. And then to getting to be on shows with him, and seeing what he does live and in person and everything else, for now it to kind of get to the point where you're closing the chapter on that. It's very interesting because, John is an interesting guy. He's very smart, very educated, obviously one of the biggest stars the business has ever seen. And the way that he's doing it, the way that he's kind of, he's being genuine. He's being honest with everybody and saying like, look, man, this is a business where a lot of guys go, I'm done, and then they're not, and then they are, and then they're not, and whatever. And it's, he just kind of, I think even now, like people are kind of expecting a little twist or something in there where they're like, nah, he's not done. He'll still be around, or whatever. It's like, it's him kind of, giving back, I guess, to everybody who has supported him, and been entertained by him for these past, 20 years or whatever it is. It's his way of kind of just wrapping a nice bow on it and going, I'm not overstaying my welcome. I'm gonna, do what I can. And now, just like he was at the school the other day, he wants to give back. He wants to help. And he talks about it all the time where he wants to make WWE and wrestling in general better than it was when he found it. And I think, he's one of the guys who obviously can do that, where he was at the school for 8+ hours, talking to people and helping them out and critiquing their matches and just talking, genuinely talking with no agenda. And there's not a lot of guys that would do something like that, especially when you get to that level. Does he have to do that? But absolutely not. So for him to go out of his way to ask to do that and to also just do that in general, kind of shows you, where he's heading and what he wants to do to give back. So, just because he's retiring in the ring doesn't mean he's done being John Cena. He's still going to be, granting wishes and doing all that stuff. Like, he's still very much that guy.
Lastly, we want to say this. When it's all said and done for Tyler Breeze, what do you want your legacy to be?
I don't know, man. I mean, it's one of those things. I haven't really thought about it. I enjoy, I guess, a little bit more now when I go to, meet and greets or stuff like that, hearing people say that they were genuinely entertained by what I did. Or, say, hey, I went to my first ever wrestling show and I saw you and it made me a lifelong fan or whatever it was. Or just to, bring up anything that I've done in the past, 11 years that I was with WWE or 19 in general. So anything, I guess, if it impacted them, and again, a lot of this sometimes isn't wrestling related either. There's a ton of people who have talked about during the pandemic and, the Uno stuff that we did, the UpUpDownDown stuff that we did and how much that impacted people. So I think it all kind of gets wrapped up into, the entertainment aspect of, if you enjoyed anything that I did, whether it be in the wrestling ring or playing games or, just hanging out or whatever, it's really, really cool to hear that you had that impact on somebody. So to me, I guess that's just the part that, that's good enough for me in terms of a legacy. If there's, someone out there who enjoyed what I did at any point, then I guess I was a success in my mind.
Where can people find you and Flatbacks online?
Flatbacks, if you go online, it would be www.flatbackswrestlingschool.com. I also have links to the Instagram and the Twitter on mine as well. My Instagram and my Twitter are gorgeous with 3 M's. You can find me on YouTube at UpUpDownDown. I think that's probably about it.
Tyler Breeze, it has been an absolute honor. Thank you so much for your time and for being so cool with us. Until the next episode, please subscribe to our channel. Keep helping us grow, and shout out to Entertainment Weekly and People Magazine for recently covering one of our episodes. And make sure you follow Tyler on his socials listed in the description below, and check out Flatbacks if you're looking for a pro wrestling school to train at. I am David Clair-Bennett.
And I'm Elizabeth Darnell.
And he's Tyler Breeze. And we are out. Thank you so much, brother. Appreciate it.
Cool. Thanks, guys.